I let my stepsister stay with us after her breakup, but then I found her pregnancy test in my husband's drawer. I still remember the day she showed up on my doorstep, mascara streaked, trembling, and holding nothing but a duffel bag and a broken heart. Her name was Chloe, my stepsister. Not by blood, but by years of forced family dinners, awkward teenage silences, and a shared grief of watching our parents fall apart and rebuild something new together. We were never close, not exactly enemies, but never best friends either. We just coexisted. Two teenage girls, suddenly living under the same roof after my mom married her dad when I was 15. She was 16, already beautiful in a way I wasn't. Long legs, sun-kissed hair, that magnetic smile that drew attention in every room. I was quieter, more grounded, a planner, an observer. While I stayed up studying for finals, she sneaked out to bonfires. While I got into college with scholarships, she bounced between boyfriends and bartending gigs. But when she stood at my front door all those years later, heartbroken and alone, I couldn't turn her away. I was married now to Daniel, the man I had loved fiercely for years. We weren't perfect, but we were steady, stable. He was everything Chloe's ex, a cheating, manipulative mess, wasn't. Just for a few weeks, she sniffled that night. Until I figured things out. I looked at Daniel. He gave me a slight nod. Of course, I said. Your family. I let her into our home, our lives, our routines. I gave her the guest room, helped her update her resume, took her shopping for interview clothes. And when she cried in the kitchen over wine about how men always leave, I hugged her. I told her it would get better, that she deserved more. I didn't know she already had her eyes on my more. The first few weeks were fine. She was surprisingly helpful. She cleaned up, cooked sometimes, even folded laundry that wasn't hers. Daniel seemed impressed. She's changed, he said one night. Maybe she just needed structure. I smiled, hopeful. Maybe this would bring us closer, a new kind of sisterhood built not on obligation but support. But then things started shifting. Tiny things at first. I noticed she laughed too hard at Daniel's jokes. That her clothes got tighter. That she stayed up late watching movies with him while I went to bed early for work. I told myself I was imagining it. That I was being paranoid. That this was just the echo of our teenage rivalry creeping in again. Until one morning, I came downstairs and found Daniel shirtless in the kitchen, making coffee. Chloe stood behind him, wearing his hoodie. My stomach twisted, but they acted normal. Too normal. Want some coffee? She chirped. I made yours just how you like it. How did she know how I liked it? I laughed it off. I had to. The alternative, believing something darker, was too much. Too soon. Besides, Daniel was loyal. He was safe. He would never. Would he? The real cracks began a week later. I came home early from work, a client canceled last minute, and I walked into a half-empty house. No Chloe. No Daniel. Both cars gone. But the living room reeked of perfume. Not mine. I texted them both. Chloe replied first. At Target. Need shampoo. Daniel offered to drive me. Daniel replied a minute later. Ran an errand with Chloe. Back soon. No mention of where, no explanation for the smell. Just casual eyes wrapped in normalcy. That night, I couldn't sleep. I started keeping mental tabs. How often they went out. How often they touched. How often they smiled at each other when they thought I wasn't looking. I hated what I was becoming. A jealous wife. A paranoid sister. But my gut had started screaming. And it wouldn't stop. Then, a month into her stay, I found it. The pregnancy test. It wasn't hidden well, just in the bathroom trash under some tissues. Still in its box. Positive. My breath caught. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might faint. I stormed into Chloe's room. Empty. I opened drawers. Nothing unusual. No signs of planning. No bottles of prenatal vitamins. Just her usual mess. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to be sure. So I did the unthinkable. I checked Daniel's drawers. And there, In the bottom one, beneath some old t-shirts and receipts, was the same pregnancy test box. The same brand, the same wrapper, the same faint pink line. I stared at it, hands trembling. Everything in me shattered. She was pregnant, and he knew. Because it wasn't just a random test she threw out. She had given it to him, and he had kept it. I didn't cry. Not right away. I stood there, holding that test, staring at the two faint pink lines as if they were mocking me, proof of something I couldn't unsee, couldn't unknow. My hand was shaking, my throat dry, but no tears came. Just this strange, hollow stillness, like the world had gone silent inside me. How long? That's all I kept asking myself. How long had it been going on? How many times had they looked me in the eye, smiled at me across the dinner table, knowing full well what they were doing behind my back? I placed the test back in the drawer, exactly as I found it. Because now, I wasn't just angry. I was strategic. I needed more. More than suspicion, more than gut instinct. More than a pregnancy test hidden in a drawer. I needed proof. So I started watching. Chloe had always been careless. She moved like the world owed her something, like nothing bad could touch her for long. That's probably why she didn't notice how I started checking the laundry for his cologne on her clothes. How I began scrolling through his GPS history when he left his phone on the charger at night. How I installed his second cloud backup app on our shared iPad, the one he sometimes used when his laptop died. I became what I never thought I'd be, a woman who snoops. But when your whole life is burning, you start digging through the ashes. One night, I heard them laughing in the kitchen. I was upstairs, doors slightly cracked. I didn't move. I just listened. Chloe's voice, soft and sweet. Daniel's low chuckle. The clink of glasses. Then a pause. Then her voice again. What if she finds out? My blood froze. Daniel. She won't. She's not suspicious. A beat of silence. Then something else, something that made my skin crawl. Besides, she'd never believe I'd choose you over her. And Chloe, with a quiet giggle. But you did. I wanted to scream, to run down the stairs and throw every dish in that kitchen across the room. But I didn't. Because I was done being emotional. I was going to let them hang themselves. I took screenshots of their texts from Daniel's sync tablet. Conversations that made my stomach turn. Daniel, can't wait to feel you again. Last night wasn't enough. Chloe, you're better mine? Daniel, ours, babe. It turns me on knowing it's hers. Ours. He was sleeping with her in my bed. I felt sick. I wanted to peel off my skin and scream into the void. But I kept reading. I needed every piece of the puzzle, no matter how much it hurt. They even joked about me. Chloe. She made pasta again, kill me. Daniel. Don't worry, I'll feed you dessert later. And worst of all. Chloe. She has no clue I'm pregnant. Daniel. Let's keep it that way, at least for now. There it was. Confirmation. They were planning on hiding the pregnancy from me, while they lived under my roof, eating my food, sleeping in my bed, and pretending to be innocent. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed beside Daniel, who rolled over and tucked an arm around me like he always did. The same arm that had probably held Chloe just hours earlier. I stared at the ceiling and imagined all the ways I could destroy him. Destroy them. But first, I needed a confrontation. One that left no room for lies. It was a Saturday afternoon when I finally cracked. Chloe was in the shower. Daniel was in the garage, fixing something on his car. I walked in, calm as anything, holding the pregnancy test in one hand and the iPad in the other. He looked up, smiling. Hey babe, what's up? I tossed the test on the workbench. Then I held up the tablet unlocked and opened to their thread. His face drained of color. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't cry. I just asked one question. How long has it been going on? He stammered. Blabbered something about just one mistake, and it didn't mean anything. I stared at him. She's pregnant. He didn't deny it. Didn't even flinch. Just nodded. And in that moment, I felt something in me snap. Not break, not the kind of snap that shatters. The kind that sharpens. I walked out of the garage without another word. And waited. That evening, Chloe came downstairs in a tight sweater and bare legs like she owned the place. I was sitting on the couch. Calm. Composed. She sat beside me, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. So I said it. Congratulations. She looked up confused. What? I smiled. On the baby. Her whole body stiffened. Her mouth opened slightly. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled the test out of my sweater pocket. Really? Because this says otherwise. She went pale. I'm not. I didn't mean. I leaned in, my voice low. You slept with my husband. In my house. Under my nose. And you thought you could lie to me? She burst into tears. Tried to grab my hand. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I was lonely. He was there, and I stood. Save it. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. She looked stunned. What? Now? I didn't blink. You want to play adult games? Then deal with adult consequences. Take your lies. Take your child. And go. But where am I supposed to? I don't care. I slammed the door behind her. Then I walked upstairs, into my bedroom, and began packing Daniel's clothes into black garbage bags. He came home hours later to find his belongings on the porch. He pounded on the door, yelled, begged. I didn't answer. He texted. It didn't mean anything. I love you. Please. Talk to me. I blocked him. Both of them. But that was only the beginning. Because revenge? Revenge was still on the way. After I threw them both out, I expected to feel something close to relief. Freedom. Strength. Triumph. But what I actually felt was numb. The kind of numb that creeps into your bones and settles there like a winter that never ends. My house, once my sanctuary, now felt haunted. Every room echoed with memories that had been contaminated. The couch where we watched movies? That's where Chloe once curled up next to him while I worked late nights at the office. The guest room? That's where she cried crocodile tears after her so-called breakup. Probably texting Daniel while I brought her tea. And our bedroom, my bedroom, was now a place I couldn't even step into without tasting bile. I slept on the couch for a week. I told people we were working through things. I didn't want pity. Not yet. I didn't want whispers or questions or advice from people who didn't understand the magnitude of the betrayal. What I wanted was answers. What I needed was revenge. But before revenge, I needed recovery. Not the gentle, healing kind. I'm talking about strategic emotional recovery. Rebuilding my face, my energy, my confidence, like armor. Because they took everything from me. My trust, my dignity, my future. So I was going to take everything from them. I started by seeing a lawyer. Not because I was filing for divorce yet, but because I wanted to know my leverage. I had enough evidence to make Daniel squirm in court. Infidelity, betrayal, emotional distress, and if the child was his, it would open a whole new legal can of worms. But more than that, I wanted to understand how to separate everything financially. Daniel and I had built a modest but stable life together. 2 cars, a mortgage, a shared bank account, and investments that were finally starting to grow. I had contributed more in the beginning. He joined the marriage with debt, which I helped pay off. That detail mattered now. The lawyer reviewed the accounts, the deeds, and the paper trail I had quietly prepared. You've got power here, she said, tapping her pen on the papers. And if you move smart, you'll keep most of it. Smart. That's what I was going to be. While Daniel was texting me from burner numbers, I miss you. I was drunk. She meant nothing. I was printing bank statements and unlinking our accounts. And while Chloe was posting vague quotes on Instagram like, healing isn't linear, and sometimes the villain tells the better story, I was digging into her recent history. Because something didn't sit right. The timeline. The pregnancy. The way she had inserted herself into my home like it was planned. So I went digging. And what I found chilled me to my core. She had never broken up with her ex. In fact, just 3 days before she showed up on my doorstep with crocodile tears and a duffel bag, she had posted a now deleted story, her and Daniel, my husband, at a local bar, sitting way too close. There were other pictures too. Not on her main account, she wasn't that stupid. But she had a Finsta, a fake Instagram, and one of our mutual friends sent it to me after seeing her tag Daniel in a blurry nightclub video. It dated back months. They had been sneaking around behind my back since the previous Thanksgiving. That meant even her showing up at my house had been part of the affair. She hadn't come to heal. She'd come to take. To take him. To take my life. To take what she thought she deserved because Chloe never liked being second. Not to me. Not to anyone. I confronted Daniel one last time. Not in person. I refused to let him cross my threshold again. But I sent him an email. Subject line, your truth, my terms. In it, I attached every screenshot, every message, the video of him and Chloe at that bar, the pregnancy test, the financial records I had gathered, and finally, a list of terms. I keep the house, I keep the joint savings, and he signs over the card that I had bought in his name years ago. If you can test any of this, I wrote, I will go public. With everything, including the screenshots showing you were involved with my stepsister while living under my roof. He didn't respond. But 2 days later, I got the signed documents via courier. Coward. Chloe tried to reach me too. A voicemail. Her voice shaking, sniffling. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I thought you didn't even love him anymore. I just wanted someone to choose me for once. I deleted it without listening to the end. Because here's the thing Chloe never understood. Being chosen by a man doesn't make you special. Being loyal? That's rare. Being destructive? That's easy. She picked easy. Now she'd live with the consequences. But even that wasn't enough. Not for me. Because something darker had taken root inside me, not just grief or anger. Purpose. I wanted them to feel what I felt. So I made a plan. It started with Chloe's job interview. She had finally gotten a call back at a luxury baby boutique, a place I had actually recommended to her before all this happened. It was high-end, reputation-based. They prided themselves on elevated values and family-driven ethics. Perfect. I emailed the boutique anonymously. Attached photos. Not of her with Daniel, no, that would be too easy. I sent in the video from her Finsta. The one where she made fun of pregnant customers for being needy cows. The one where she drunkenly joked about faking a baby for free stuff. The hiring manager responded within 24 hours. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We are rescinding our offer. This behavior does not align with our values. One down. Daniel was next. He'd recently applied for a promotion, regional project manager at the architecture firm where we had both once worked. I was still friendly with his old mentor, Mr. Nash, the man who'd given Daniel a second chance after I vouched for him when he screwed up a client file early in his career. I forwarded him the screenshots. The ones where Daniel trashed the company, mocked the partners, laughed about padding invoices on a side project he was doing for cash. I ended my message with, I thought you'd want to know who's representing your brand. Daniel didn't get the promotion. In fact, he was quietly let go. Something about violating ethics policies. Oops. They didn't know it was me. Not at first. But I wanted them to know. So I mailed Chloe a little box. Inside, the pregnancy test. And a note, typed. You may have stolen my husband, but I took your future. Sincerely, the woman who raised you like a sister. There's something terrifyingly powerful about a woman who's been betrayed and survived. People think revenge is fire, explosive, violent. But mine? Mine was cold, surgical, calculated, and I had nothing left to lose. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused. A woman stripped of illusion, no longer soft or accommodating. I'd been the wife who loved too deeply, the sister who forgave too easily, the fixer who gave and gave, until there was nothing left of me but dust. Now? I was done fixing. Now, I was unmaking. It started with their reputations. Because Daniel and Chloe had always cared deeply about one thing: image. To the outside world, Daniel was the charming architect with a clean-cut jawline and a spotless record. Chloe? The misunderstood beauty trying to start fresh, the influencer in the making, always posting healing quotes and filtered selfies about growth. But I knew the truth behind the edits. So I began tearing down their facades, brick by brick. Daniel's demolition. I remembered the passwords. Daniel had reused the same ones for years, for emails, socials, even Dropbox. Sloppy. Through his email, I found everything: his flirty client messages, half-drafted apology letters, and a private folder labeled Design Concepts, which included files he stole from his previous firm before he joined his current one. It wasn't just unethical. It was criminal. I packaged the files: proof of plagiarism, confidential architectural designs, billing discrepancies, and mailed them anonymously to his company's legal team. They launched an internal investigation. A month later, his LinkedIn read freelancer, but I knew the truth. He was blacklisted. Chloe's fall. Chloe had finally started her influencer journey. Nothing major. Just a curated feed of pastel motherhood posts and relationship healing stories with vague captions like, "When one door closes, another opens, and sometimes that door is a man who loves you better." It made me laugh, bitterly. So I bought a burner account and followed her. Then I started deeming other small brands she collaborated with, fake testimonials, screenshots of her nasty Finsta comments, videos of her mocking plus-size clients when she thought no one was listening. And then, I leaked one of her private videos to a gossip page on TikTok. Just one. The one where she looked into the camera, smirking, and said, "Sometimes you gotta steal what you want, even if it's your sister's man." She should have seen it coming. It went viral in 3 hours. The comments flooded in. "You slept with your sister's husband? Disgusting. Imagine destroying someone's life and then acting like you're the victim." She lost over 10K followers in a single night. Brands pulled out. She deactivated her page. And then, just for fun, I used that same burner to send her a final DM. "Hi Chloe. How's healing going now?" She blocked me. But I knew she knew. The final blow: their love story unraveled. They moved in together eventually. Not in some glamorous love nest, but in a rented 2-bedroom apartment downtown, far from the suburbs and the life I built. They kept it low profile at first, probably hoping the drama would fade. But I had one last card. I hired a private investigator, a former coworker's cousin, to do a little digging on Daniel's finances. Turned out, he had maxed out 2 credit cards trying to keep up appearances. One of them, in my name. He'd taken out a joint credit account during our marriage, something I stupidly signed without reading back when we were remodeling the kitchen. He'd kept it open. And now, it had nearly $7,500 in charges. Restaurants, jewelry, hotel stays. While he was working late or driving Chloe to interviews. I wasn't just livid. I was legally armed. I reported the fraud. The charges hit his credit hard. He called me from a new number crying, apologizing. "I made a mistake. Please. We have a baby now." Oh yes, the baby. She was born a few weeks later. A girl. They named her Grace. How ironic. I sent them a card. Just one line. "She deserves better than both of you." No name. No return address. But I knew they'd know it was me. My comeback. While they were unraveling, I was rebuilding. I took time off, then returned to work sharper, more focused. My boss noticed. Promotions were discussed. I started therapy. I joined a support group. I traveled solo to Italy, something I'd always dreamed of but put off because Daniel wasn't into Europe. In Florence, I stood beneath the Duomo and realized I had never truly seen beauty until I saw it alone. When I got back, I bought myself a new bed. New linens. New locks. New life. I began writing again, my old passion, long buried under work and responsibilities. I wrote essays, blog posts, short fiction. One of my stories, about a woman betrayed by her sister and husband, got picked up by a women's magazine. It went viral. I changed names, of course. But everyone who mattered, they knew exactly who it was about. And then, one morning, almost a year to the day after Chloe knocked on my door with a suitcase and a lie, I got a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A handwritten letter. In shaky cursive. From Chloe. I didn't know where else to turn. Daniel left. I'm alone. I can't afford rent. I can't find work. Grace cries all night and I don't know what I'm doing. I know you hate me. I deserve it. But if there's anything in you that remembers the girl who used to braid your hair at sleepovers, please help me. I stared at the letter for a long, long time. Then I folded it neatly and tossed it in the shredder. 1 year had passed. 12 long months since I discovered the truth. Since I burned the bridge between me, Chloe, and Daniel to ash. Since I chose revenge over reconciliation, silence over second chances. And I'd never felt stronger. Until the day I opened my front door and saw a toddler standing on my porch. Alone. Wobbling slightly, holding a teddy bear with one eye. Big, wide eyes just like Daniel's. Soft blonde curls just like Chloe's. I froze. Then a voice called out, weak, breathless. Please, don't shut the door. Chloe. Barely standing, pale, thin. A backpack slung over one shoulder, her clothes baggy and stained. There were dark circles under her eyes, and something in her expression looked cracked. I didn't move. I didn't invite her in. What is this? I asked coldly, gesturing to the child. A stunt. She shook her head, tears already streaming down her cheeks. She's not his, she whispered. The words were like a gunshot in the quiet air. I blinked. What? She's not Daniel's, Chloe repeated. She never was. And just like that, the world shifted. We sat on the porch. I didn't let her inside. Grace, the little girl, sat between us, babbling to her bear. Chloe spoke fast. Like if she slowed down, she'd shatter. It was never about Daniel. Not really. I mean, yes, we crossed a line. A horrible one. But I didn't plan to get pregnant. And when I found out, I panicked. I knew Daniel would believe it was his. And I knew you would hate me. You're right, I said flatly. She flinched but continued. But it wasn't his. It was someone else's a rebound. Some guy I met while I was still with my last ex, before I even came to your house. I didn't know until weeks later. The timeline, I lied to both of you. And let him raise her as his, I snapped. Why? Because he wanted to, she whispered. Because he needed something to believe in after you cut him out. I looked away. This wasn't pity. I refused to call it that. But hearing that the child, the one who blew my life apart, wasn't even Daniel's, it changed everything. No, not everything. But enough. You let me hate you for something he didn't even do, I said slowly. You let me spiral. You had every right to hate me, she said, voice cracking. But I didn't come here for forgiveness. I came because I'm sick. I looked at her. What do you mean? She pulled back her sleeve. Bruises. Not from violence, from IVs. I was diagnosed with leukemia last month. Aggressive. I've been in and out of clinics. But there's a long wait list for a marrow match. Her eyes met mine. You and I, we share a parent. You might be a match. I stared at her. Silent. Cold. She added quietly. I don't want anything for me. But Grace. She needs someone. If I don't make it, she has no one. A long silence. And then she whispered. Please. Don't let her grow up thinking she was a mistake. In the days that followed, I did the test. Part of me hated myself for doing it. But another part, the small, still human part, couldn't look at that little girl's face and do nothing. The test came back. I was a partial match. Enough to donate. Enough to give her a chance. And so, I did. Quietly. Privately. Without fanfare or forgiveness. When Chloe asked why, I said, Because she's innocent. And because I don't want her to grow up thinking women like us can't survive without destroying each other. Chloe survived the first round of treatment. She moved to a women's shelter that specialized in transitional care. Grace stayed with her for now. I don't speak to them. But every few weeks, I get a photo. Just Grace, smiling, growing. No captions. No requests. Just proof. Proof that even the ugliest betrayals can leave behind something innocent. Something worth saving. Something that reminds me, I am not the woman they broke. I am the woman who rebuilt herself, piece by piece. And when they tried to bury me, they didn't realize I was the seed.